Oh dear, no, that's not what I wanted. There we go. Okay, good morning. It's Saturday, the 24th of January. So I'm recording the outlook for the week ahead now, maybe a bit preemptively, but I don't think much is going to happen because it's the weekend. So I thought I'd just get on with it. Got the energy to do it, feeling motivated for whatever reason. Okay, so start with the high time frame. So the question we've got to ask is, obviously we're bracketing, right? And we've been here for almost 3 months now. Have we seen any bullish developments during this period? I would say no, not on the high time frame. Obviously, we've had an attempt to push higher. We wicked into the imbalance above this old point of control, above this high volume node, and rejected. So we couldn't find acceptance above that HVN, re-accepted within the range, bearish development, and we traded into the point of control at 87k. So there was a potential for us to try and push higher off this level, and I think we've attempted to do that. And again, we've seen a failure this week. So trading below the 37-day, 90-day VWAPs, 365-day VWAPs, everything is pointing down. Unable to find acceptance above the range. So for me, on the balance of probabilities, this range is much more likely to break to the downside than to the upside. I don't need to worry about being wrong, because if I am wrong, we can just position long above 94k, 94.4k specifically, if we find acceptance above that level. But on the balance probabilities, the way things are developing, I'm strongly leaning towards this range breaking to the downside. After 3 months of bracketing, and it may go on for longer. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen in February, but I wouldn't be surprised to see it range for another month. It's happened before. Then I've lost my train of thought. But yeah, the balance probability suggests that this is going to break to the downside. We could go sideways for longer. I'm wrong above 94.4k. And I think, the point I was going to make was that, a break from 3 to 4 months of balance is going to be usually quite substantial. I mean, here we ranged for 4 months, right? And the break was a 4-week downtrend, which took us down, 30% from the breakdown? If we take it from the range low, yeah, about 30%, right? So a multi-month breakdown typically elicits that kind of move, right? So I think, we could be looking down to potentially these kind of areas if this range does break to the downside. And obviously if it breaks to the upside, then the opposite is going to be true. And I think we'll probably go towards at least, at that point, the trend is reversed. So you have to just assume we just continue up until proven otherwise. But at least 108k if we break to the upside, I would suggest, which takes us back into this this previous POC here and possibly higher. I mean, if this breaks to whichever direction this breaks in, you do not want to be looking to fade it, okay? And the fact that we couldn't get continuation after trading above value is, to me, a signal that bears are very much in control of this market, and therefore it's just another piece of evidence which points towards downside. So that's the high time frame perspective. I think if you're sitting here looking at this and thinking this is going to trade up, you're either not paying attention, or you're being willfully ignorant. You're selling hopium, or there's some other motive, because or you just don't have a clue what you're talking about, because there's just no reason to expect this to break up, in my opinion. Let's just zoom in and talk about the medium time frame a bit. So yeah, so after the failure yesterday, last week, we got back into value. Now, the assumption here should be that we attempt to traverse value. As it was, we got interrupted at the POC. Now, in the event that you get interrupted at the POC, it's reasonable to anticipate an attempt to push higher. And we got that, right? So we had the initial reaction, another attempt yesterday, and we failed, right? So we've more or less come and tagged the previous month's value high, which is kind of my first upside target. Just front ran it, really. But front running areas is a sign that bulls are weak, right? Sellers are just stepping in and still controlling this market. So we got pretty much rejected off the 7-day, came into this previous area of consolidation. Now we've printed, I don't need to talk about what's gone on previously, it's not really important. We've printed a few days overlapping value here. So if I just bring up the TPO, we'll just mark out these levels. I'm just going to draw it here. Okay, so we've got 3 days so far, I believe. I think this is from Wednesday, from Tuesday. Okay, it's longer than I thought. So the range is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So we've already got 4 days. We're likely to have 6, including the weekend. I don't think much is going to happen over the weekend. And obviously it's kind of a very similar picture to what we've seen on the high time frame. Having failed above the highs, we're obviously anticipating an auction towards the lows. I would look to fade around this 90k level should we get another push into there. Perhaps over the weekend, into next week. But we've got this nice imbalance, kind of weekly VWAP, which capped us all week here. So we've got this imbalance confluent with that value high around 90k. So I think if we should get another push up into this area, I would be looking to short this level. And then potentially anticipating a breakdown. So, obviously the developing week's value low is lining up there, which isn't surprising given most of the week was spent in this range. But a break below here then would likely lead towards at least 86k, right? So this is the key level on the high time frame. This composite low, the multi-month composite low, sits around 85 to 86k, similarly to this one here. So the question is, are we ready to break down, or do we spend more time chopping? And I don't have the answer to that, right? Whether we need a catalyst to break down, or it's just going to happen more organically over the next week or two, I'm not sure. But what I would say is, typically we see sell-offs in the first week of each month. So, this is obviously the last week of January that we're coming into. So yeah, it's possible that we range for longer, but I wouldn't necessarily be wedded to either view. Obviously, if we break below 86k and sustain the momentum, then we're going to go significantly lower, as I pointed out in the high time frame view. So, really that's my only plan right now, is to look to short up here. I took a long here. I shorted ETH and XRP, not BTC. So yeah, it's been quite a good trading week. So if you got short on the failure above the highs, you could have traded that to the POC. There was a good long off the POC. I think that there's a decent short on just before the US Open. We had some news on Thursday into value lows, and then a good long here. I think I took a long here as well, closed it out, and then there's a good long here. After the US Open flush, we got a bit of a short squeeze, and then flushed out a load of longs, and then got the move yesterday. So it's been a good trading week, but I think things are looking quite bearish. As I say, this is where you should have anticipated an attempt to push higher from, and this is where it's failed. I think this was a pretty clear rejection, and just another sign that sellers are really well and truly in control of this market. So I think the 90k short makes sense. Now, it's possible, of course, that I'm wrong on this and we break up. If this range breaks up, if this multi-day range ends up breaking to the upside, I don't think it's going to stop here. I think we probably will go and test this area around 94 to 95k, because it's going to be quite a long period of consolidation, right? We've got Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 6 days already. May go on for longer. So if it does break to the upside, probably at least here. And if it breaks to the downside, at least here. And then we have to see, right? There's a few possibilities that happen if we come into this low. One is it just straight breaks down immediately. I don't think that's very likely. I think that the buyers will try and step in here, and then it's just what kind of reaction we get. Like, do we get capped at the point of control here? Do we come up and retest this kind of area? We just have to wait and see. But for now, that would be the plan, would be to look to short around 90k, potentially compound on a breakdown here, target into the point of control again, and then the value lows at 86k. That's it. I think if you're short from up here, then you're laughing. I generally keep things a bit shorter term, but clear setups there. Now, if I'm completely wrong on the high time frame idea, as I say, I think there's a very clear level to work with, which is just pretty much this level at 94.4. It's the value low of this consolidation, and if we can get a shift above that, above the developing months value high, then game on. It's going to trade up, but I really just don't see any signs that that's going to happen. as things stand. So, if you see someone just saying, yeah, we're going to 110k, just buy down here, then I mean, I don't know what to say about that really. Okay, I think that's it for BTC. Now, in terms of downside targets, if we do break down, I don't know, we could trade sideways for longer. I mean, I made this point during the week that February's recently, or in recent years, have been relatively slow. We've generally seen more consolidation during February. That happened throughout last February, which was this period. We just chopped around this point of control of this range before we broke down. The February prior, we were in an uptrend, but we spent 2 weeks consolidating. And the February in early 2023 was similar, right? We just spent January trading up. We got into Feb, we had one move, mostly just ranged, a puke in early March, and then traded up again. So tending to see more consolidation during February. And I don't know if that's, the sample size is small. I don't know if there's any reason for it or any reason to add any lean on that in any way whatsoever. It's just an observation. So whether we end up trading sideways here for longer, I don't know. I guess there is a scenario where we trade into this value low. I would be looking for a long at this value low, to be fair. I should have said that. But not necessarily expecting much, right? So there is a scenario where we traverse value again. That could definitely happen. Given the weakness we've seen so far, I wouldn't necessarily expect that, but it's plausible. So, potentially looking for a long here. But also plausible that we just consolidate down here below, kind of the POC or even this consolidation. And ultimately that's what leads to us breaking down, is a bit of consolidation and support before it ultimately goes lower. So yeah, in terms of downside targets, I mean, the nearest support, we also got this POC again, which capped the downside here and really here as well. Then the value lows from this composite. So I would say 82k initially. That would kind of be a fake down scenario, I think. So if we broke down and lost momentum to the downside, that could be a bullish signal. But really, I think if 3 months of value is going to break to the downside, then we're probably looking towards the summer composite from 2024, which would take us below 70k potentially. So the highest volume level on the entire chart is 67k. You almost certainly find a reaction there. So this would be, this kind of area would be where I'd be looking to take a long from for a bounce at least. And then, what we tend to do is fill out these voids, right? We've seen it over and over again. So we traded up here. We filled out this area. We traded up here. Every area just gets filled out. So even in this thin part here, we've really filled that out recently. So, this is the kind of obvious area for us to form another range, right? I think if we do break down, so let's just say I'm right on this and we break to the downside over the next few weeks, I think we're probably going to range in this area, right, between sort of 70 and 80k for a bit, just to fill out that void. It's generally how things go. And then we have to see, if that ends up being a long-term bottom, or we ultimately have another puke. Just have to reassess when that time comes. So I think that's it for high time frame, and then a bit of kind of medium to low time frame stuff as well. BTC, just make sure I'm not missing anything in the chat. Betting for the stream to crash have more probabilities than BTC. Yeah, definitely. That's far more probable that the stream is going to crash. But I think we're stable now, aren't we? Seems to be fine. Okay, so that's Bitcoin done. Let's look at some alts. I mean, look, I was hoping that we could trade higher this week. I was hoping that this move off this POC and then this reaction here was going to elicit that move up towards potentially 94k, but we just got bonked, right? When you see a break from value and we lose momentum, you have to just adjust your plans. There was quite a heavy offer above price here, but that was the only thing that was really stopping us. So it just shows that sellers are just completely in control of this, I think. Really no expectation of this trading higher as things stand. And if it does, it'll be obvious, right? Because we'll break value and just continue, not break out. and then just lose momentum. So yeah, we got a retest here, and then it just fizzled out. Doom. Okay, so yeah, 90 to 90.5k area looks like a good place to short if we get it. I don't even know that we're going to get that because we've already kind of got that return into this value here. So good rejection there. Right, let's look at some other stuff because the other majors are pretty interesting right now, I think. So let's just zoom out on ETH, and it's a pretty similar picture. I'm sorry, I need to take these markups off, otherwise this is going to be a bit of a mess. I'm not going to just delete everything, but I know I've got more in here than I need, that's for sure. Okay, so I've got some markups up there as well. Let's just go to the daily. Okay, so it's pretty similar in terms of us forming multiple months of balance here, and similarly to BTC, we had an attempt to push above value, failed, right, and then just rejected and traversed all the way through back into the value lows, and we're now consolidating in a previous range, right? This previous 10-day comp is capping upside, as is this huge area of VWAP overlap. So we've got previous year's VWAP, previous month's VWAP, monthly val, the 365-day VWAP. So that attempt to push up on Thursday got capped there. And we're now just consolidating at support. So guess what? Super bearish. Is there any reason to expect this to trade up at the moment? I don't think so. So the fact that we're unable to get above that 10-day composite high kind of suggests to me that at best we're just going to see some consolidation here before it breaks down. Obviously consolidation at support, bearish, trading below all of our rolling VWAPs, everything's pointing down, it's hideous. So I think, pretty similar outlook for ETH in terms of it being not very optimistic. And yeah, it's pretty straightforward. I mean, I'll come and zoom in again. We'll talk about, downside targets are obvious, right? We've got this previous area of consolidation, big high volume node around 2,500, but I generally look to target the value lows at least, and then potentially previous year's value low at 2,200. Those are the sort of downside targets I would look at immediately. Not to say ETH couldn't end up going a lot lower, but for now, those are the two obvious areas to look at, in my opinion, on a breakdown. So I'm holding an ETH short from yesterday. I've been trading it fairly actively, but I think this failure is it. I want to see it really capped below the bigger picture POC now, if I'm right. And we've got, like BTC, multiple days of balance forming. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 4 days so far. Obviously the weekend's going to come into play as well, but the breakdown is below 2,900 essentially. So I think this is likely to break down, so I'm just going to hold this short. I don't really care if I round trip it. The breakdown play is pretty clear. Either we accept below the 4-day, which is going to be 5-6 days at least, or just a break below previous month val. But once that momentum comes, I think you can just step in if you're not already positioned from higher. So yeah, looks horrendous. And the other majors, ETH and Sol, look so likely to break down imminently that I just I could see there was a case here for upside, I think, earlier in the week, and actually this informed some of my thinking, was that, well, if ETH and Sol are trading at composite lows already and BTC is some way higher, I mean, BTC is a good still a good 3-4% off the value lows. So I find it hard to envisage a scenario where ETH and Sol break down from value while BTC continues chopping. This is kind of something I'm struggling with a bit, to be honest, because it just doesn't really make a great deal of sense to me that they would just nuke asynchronously. And once these markets become imbalanced, they're going to move quickly, right? I don't think this is just going to be a sort of, we're just going to come down here and range for a bit again and then go lower. No, I think if you break down from 4 months of balance, that's just going to go in sort of one big leg. And so, this is something I'm just a little bit confused about, because BTC does not look ready to do that just yet. I mean, it may change, right? We could just come and break down, but we're a good way above our value lows right now and not consolidating there, which is not the case for ETH and Sol. So let's come to Sol. This looks exactly the same as ETH, to be honest. Again, I've got a load of markups here, which I'll just clean up quickly. So pretty much, multiple months of balance. Very clean rejection of the 90-day VWAP in Sol's case. I was hoping this could push higher, but obviously just the weakness is there. Just came into this gap again, swept these highs. So yeah, I missed the futures open nuke last week. Took a short on Monday in this imbalance and just rode it down. And now, yeah, I mean, again, just consolidation of support. So there was a decent long yesterday up to value highs, but that's where we failed. So it's kind of, everything's hitting the lowest possible targets. That was really the minimum I would have expected. And yes, we had a lot of VWAP resistance here as well, previous quarters fell most notably. So yeah, a big area of resistance to try and overcome. But nonetheless, no strength shown here at all. And just forming these multiple days of balance again. So Sol looks like it wants to break down imminently to me. Another, pretty bearish signal. So yes, we do have, this kind of old composite level between, 120 and 125, let's say. But really looks very likely to break down at some point over the coming week or two, I would say. I mean, consolidation support like this is just, imminent. It's just a ticking time bomb. So, the levels I would look for to the downside for Sol would be this low into this value low. So we had this old 3-week composite, which held support last April. So that value low sits around 92. And then I think, then you're potentially looking at lower targets around sort of AC, which is this level, this low volume node. Obviously support here, some resistance, support. So quite a nice clean level of SR. And then if we break below that, then there's a weekly gap around 50, but we'll see. I mean, again, this is a sort of multi-year range, really. So if and when it breaks down, it could get pretty ugly. So yeah, I think, at least 90, possibly 80, possibly 50 for Sol. It's not looking good. And then XRP just is pretty similar, multi-year range. I don't think I've got this up. So we're trading at the 2021 all-time high. Lost that level now. We had a nice squeeze into this point of control. It didn't take the short there, unfortunately. I wish I had. That was a really clean one. But I shorted it yesterday on this push. Again, being capped at the 7-day VWAP. Again, multiple days of balance. So looking for at least rotation to value lows and then reassess. But really, I'm kind of expecting everything to break down at some point soon. So trying to hold on to these things, anticipating a move lower. I think XRP just doesn't really have anything until, which is one of the reasons I like the short. It's just they have this huge imbalance. So there is some structure, I guess, around this area. They've probably got some very old structure around 135, 140-ish, which would be kind of the first area to look for to the downside, which we sort of tested on the 10-10 wick. But yeah, significantly lower. It's already breaking down really. Trading below this value, unable to reaccept within it. So as long as we don't get back above sort of 206, then it's going significantly lower, and the trend is clearly to the downside. So that pretty much sums that up. We'll take a look at Hype as well while we're here. Still in a big downtrend, but big level of support that we've come into. So more or less previous year's val and this old. Sorry, went back. I really need to clean up my charts, so apologies for this. Again, you have to be a trend respecter in this environment, right? I mean, I think I was looking at hype and thinking maybe this could push into this imbalance up here, but that would have meant pushing through previous value, and we were unable to do that, right? So we failed at previous value. So this is a big level, certainly 20, that old composite low, had a good reaction there. There's a lot of on-chain stuff going on that you can see where people's liquidations are. But ultimately, these levels are being really well respected. So just trade the system. But yeah, we're trading into this old 8-week point of control now. I still think it's going lower. I mean, we're still in a big downtrend, but potentially losing a bit of downside momentum. We'll see. I mean, if the whole market's going to break down at once, then we probably do see sub 17, which is where I start to be interested as a buyer. But potentially being capped at this point of control. Otherwise, we could come up and potentially test this consolidation anywhere between sort of 23.80 and 25. But if we look at hype against VWAP or long-term VWAPs, we've more or less traversed yearly value. So there's still a little bit of room to go towards that level, which is potentially another level of support to the downside. So that composite level just sits a little bit higher than that. But everything's looking quite bearish, other than the fact that we're attempting to reclaim the developing months value, which could lead us up to VWAP. So weekly, we're also trading above now. So actually, hype, if we can get above this point of control, yeah, it's going to trade a bit higher, but some resistance here. So I think it was a good long. I didn't take it, unfortunately, but probably a good area to at least take some partials and then see if we can push into this area around sort of 24 to 25. Looks like pretty big resistance. Lit, yeah, still shit. I mean, just unable to get inside this previous comp, so hasn't been very clean price action either, very grindy, no real momentum. I think I took a long on Thursday night, yeah, down here. It was just retesting the previous day's value high. Let's see, where was this long? Oh, it's here. Yeah, so we just came into previous day's value high around this area. Got the reversion, almost had the PSC, which was my target, but didn't quite get there. So I woke up and just closed it out. Yeah, so that's the only trade I've taken on lit. But still, I mean, it's trying to flip the 7-day VWAP. So if we can flip this, then yeah, we'll probably trade it up to at least this PSC, right? There's potentially a short-term trade there to be taken. Just a level to level like that into that PSC. I wouldn't aim for any more than that at the moment. Everything's in a downtrend, so you need to be conservative with your targets. AXS, I'm short. I forgot to just mention this. So, hell of a squeeze. Their team unlocks on the 6th of February, I think, so there's still a couple of weeks. But this is looking super extended. I mean, look how far it is above all of these rolling VWAPs, and we more or less came into a big contextual level of resistance, being this naked quarterly value high from 2025. But most importantly, I'm just looking at it in terms of the positioning, and yeah, it's just looking very overheated. So on the daily, open interest RSI is well overbought. The order book depth has been quite bearish here as well. Could continue, but I think it's slowing down. So I'm willing to sort of start taking a punt when I see the market this extended and with this much positioning that's potentially going to get flushed out. So I think pretty clear sweep yesterday. So just took a short here with a relatively wide stop. Sort of optimistically hoping that this is the top. I might be wrong. I could well be wrong, but it looks like a pretty good space to start thinking about a long-term short on this coin, because I don't think there are any reasons for it to continue trading up. It's up 5x, maybe more, maybe less. Not far off. 3x. these are sort of previous values, value highs, value lows. I've just marked them out just from previous composite structures. So if we start breaking under these, then it would be a sign that the trend is shifting. So the first one is at previous year's VWAP. If we can get below 262, I would say start to think the top is most likely in, and my short is going to print. So we'll see how it goes, but I think it's still not a bad area to be looking. Otherwise, just take it with more confirmation, right? No harm. Let it consolidate for a bit and chop everyone up. And then if it starts breaking, finding acceptance under previous, within previous values, then the trend is shifting. But yeah, it could take some time. I don't think I want to talk about too much else right now. Let's just take a look at equities again. I mean, Nasdaq's just still range bound. So I think we're seeing this kind of late cycle stuff in terms of rotations in equities, and just this period of what I assume is distribution just continues indefinitely for now. So, we traded down to value lows, we came back up, we traded at value highs again. So I just think it's ping pong until this ultimately breaks. And I think it will break to the downside. On the basis of the same reasons that I think BTC is going to break to the downside. Really, it's not as definitive as Bitcoin. The trend is more ambiguous because this hasn't broken down yet. It's the top of the cycle potentially, but we've seen a big loss of momentum, and you're seeing those rotations in equities, right? Where it's less about the Mag 7 now and more about other things, and other markets are moving. I think the Russell's probably moving more. I don't really look at it, to be honest, but I think big resistance here, big support here. Assuming this breaks, we're probably going to go towards this previous comp and take out this low. So maybe it needs a catalyst to do that, but it looks like we're unable to find acceptance above this point of control as things stand. So maybe this is it, right? Maybe this is the high before this goes as well. And I think it would make sense for equities to break down with Bitcoin. And I think gold is starting to look a little bit extended. Maybe it's got another push up, but I'd be LARPing if I sort of started to talk about this with any authority, because I don't really trade it. But obviously a hell of a trend. At some point it's going to correct, right? And whether it comes from 5k or 52.50 or something, then who knows? Silver's the same. This is total euphoria. So a correction is probably imminent, but good luck timing it. Palladium moving as well again, but that can nuke 20% in a day, as we saw back in late December. Dollar's getting wrecked, which is obviously helping gold. It's quite interesting, isn't it? Kind of got this probably like multi-year value here. I mean, running this kind of technicals on DXY probably makes no sense. In fact, there's no volume data, so I'm wasting my time. Is there anything else to talk about? Let's just, while I'm here, why not just take a look at these things? Sol BTC looks horrendous, consolidating to support, big downtrend, so likely to break down. Sol ETH, much the same. Big downtrend, consolidating to support, likely to break down. Tether dominance is looking bullish as hell, to be honest. So on the high time frame, big reversal pattern, kind of inverted head and shoulders, if you like. Reclaim of support here. Nice uptrend. And now on lower time frames, we are retesting previous support, so previous resistance rather. So we found resistance, retesting, looks like it wants straight up. So, another reason to be bearish Bitcoin and crypto generally is the way Tether dominance is looking, and BTC dominance also looking very bullish. So yeah, good luck to ETH is all I say, and possibly XRP as well. Those are the big ones. So yeah, I'll leave it there, guys. I'll catch you next time, and well, I'll speak to some of you on Monday, and have a good weekend. Cheers for now.